Week 1 of the Premier League season is in the books. City, top of the table. Wolves, West Ham, and Burnley round out the bottom three on goal difference. Sunderland was top for at least an hour. Can they maintain their spot in Champions League after 2 weeks? Jacob and I are going through our week 2 predictions. But Jacob, how does it feel to be back atop the Premier League table? Manchester City with the 4-0 win over Wolves, on top on goal difference.
Yeah, super encouraging start to the Premier League season for Manchester City. I'm just glad the Premier League's back, though. Some great games, some kind of boring games this past weekend, but I'm just glad it's back.
Yes, and we have another week of 4 game days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday this week. So let's go ahead and kick off our predictions with the Friday match at the London Stadium. West Ham take on Chelsea. Both teams are going to feel like they did not perform last week. Obviously, West Ham losing 3-0 at the Stadium of Light will have their home opener. Chelsea, a 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace, where they felt like they did not get anything going on the offensive end, and maybe a little lucky to not have conceded with that Eze free kick being overturned by VAR. Before I get into anything else, I need to talk about that a little bit. What Robert Sanchez was doing with a 4-man wall from the ball in the middle of the box like that, I will never understand. For that alone, I wanted the goal to stand. I was watching this, I'm like, you're going to get scored on. They're just going to blast it on the open half of the goal. They blast on the open half of the goal. He doesn't have the reactions to save it. Why? Because he has a 4-man wall in the middle of the box. If you want any comparison, look at the Arsenal United game about 16 minutes in. Raya setting up a wall against Bruno Fernandes on the right part of the half circle on top of the box, and he sets up a 5-man wall, and that's on a diagonal, which is obviously a harder angle to go far post on than right on the middle of the goal. It's just absolutely absurd. Anyone who thinks that the Club World Cup is going to get rid of any of the problems that Robert Sanchez brings to this Chelsea team, I cannot get behind it. He had a great tournament, a great performance, deserved the Golden Glove, came up huge against PSG, and I know he can come up huge in some big games, but over a length of a 38-game season, this is going to bite Chelsea. It did not last weekend, and I don't think it will at the London Stadium, as West Ham was too poor against Sunderland. Give me 3 points. Chelsea undefeated after 2 weeks. Let's go. Need to start to keep pace. Chelsea all 3 points in this one.
Yeah, the as a goal, I've never heard of that rule. You can't be within a meter of the wall. Literally never seen that called. Feels kind of like the old 6-second rule with the keeper holding the ball. It's just
Yeah,
a rule
not
that
called.
never gets enforced. So
Yeah.
kind of weird timing for VAR to intervene there. It was such a great shot by Eza. It feels bad to not see that counted. Last year, he had a similar amazing free kick that got discounted. You got to feel for the
Yeah.
guy.
Mark Gahey was just trying to help out Robert Sanchez and add Cucurella to the wall, you know? He's like, no, you need
Yeah,
5.
it's
You
just
need
you got to
5.
be over here. Yeah, Mark Gahey might have been a foul. I
Yeah, could
I
have been
can
a
see
foul.
that.
I would see
Um,
that more than the 1 yard rule, but yes.
right.
Chelsea 4 points to start the season, not too bad. But City already on 3. Do they get 3 against arch enemies Tottenham in the Premier League? This is at the Etihad, though.
City taking on Tottenham, a team that they don't always perform well against, even when Tottenham has some of their worst seasons. It seems like they can always pull a result against City for some reason. It's just one of those matchups. City are coming off a 4-0 thrashing of Wolves, though. They had 4 shots on target and 4 goals. The efficiency was crazy. Haaland had a brace to start off his new campaign. Tijani Reinders with the performance of the weekend. He had a goal, an assist,
Whoa!
and he also created the first one with a beautiful scoop pass to Rico Lewis. I have to give some props to Rico Lewis. That was a beautiful cross to Haaland for the tap in. Really awesome play going forward. He's a good offensive player. I just think he's such a defensive liability, and he's too small that he just cannot be on the field. And that's why I've criticized him so much. But against Wolves, it didn't prove to be a vulnerability, and that was a great pass by him. Oscar Bobb looked fantastic. It's so amazing to see him back in full fitness after an injury-ridden previous year. He just looks so comfortable on the ball. He can do anything he wants with it. Cherki came on late and took just 8 minutes to get his first Premier League goal. Nori did not produce as much offensively as we've seen in the past and in the summer, but he defended really well. It was only Wolves, but lots of people have been questioning his ability to defend, and he had some great tackles. I thought that was really encouraging to see. Pep has been complaining about having too many players. but it seems like a decent problem to have with all the injury concerns that we had last season. Tottenham are also coming off a big win, a 3-0 win against Burnley. Richarlison keeping pace with Haaland to start the season with a brace of his own. Already a goal of the season candidate with a beautiful scissor kick. Go watch that back if you haven't seen it. Richarlison has a crazy goal per minute ratio in the Premier League. If he can stay healthy, maybe Tottenham don't need Solanke and they can keep rolling like they did last week. Basuma missed the Super Cup due to disciplinary actions, and he missed the home opener due to a knock. They claimed it was a knock anyway in training.
Yeah.
We'll see if his disciplinary actions or punishments continue. I really do think they need him back for this game. Although Archie Gray and Bergvall did very well in their win, this is a much greater test, and I really think they need Basuma and Bentancur fit for this game at the Etihad. I am going to go City because it's at the Etihad. If it was at Hotspur Stadium, I'd probably pick Tottenham in this one. I could see this game going any which way. Super excited for this one to start the weekend.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see the lineup, like I mentioned, for Spurs, especially if they go with a back three. Paulinho, I think, is going to be fantastic. Suma, if he can start as well, I think will really help anchor that midfield in front of that back line. You're definitely going to need that against City. But Thomas Frank has been fantastic in his 2 games in charge. And another manager that has been fantastic is Areola for Bournemouth. And I think a big reason why Bournemouth showed themselves well against Liverpool last week in a 4-2 loss was because of the way he set up and got his players ready for that one. I thought Trouvert, who was going to be under the spotlight as the new left back coming in for Kirkez, obviously moving to Liverpool. I think he had a better performance than Kirkez, especially in a back line that had 3 missing pieces from last year. He was part of a kind of reassembled back line, and Petrovic obviously getting the start in goal in replacement of Kepa. A huge undertaking to go to Anfield on that emotional day. Season opener, Diego Jota, defending champions. They looked a little rattled. They'll be much more settled after 1 game under their belt and returning home. Semenyo was pushing Reinders there for player of the week. If you want to give it to Reinders, I might have to give it to Semenyo after that 2-goal performance, putting the team on his back in that second half and trying to carry them to victory. It was tied 2-2 until the last couple of minutes there. So I like Semenyo. I like Bournemouth to get the win over a very poor Wolves team who don't seem like they have it defensively after that 4-0 thrashing to City and weren't able to exploit some of the defensive frailties that we thought City were going to have going into the season, like a Rico Lewis, like you mentioned. So give me Bournemouth at home.
What a performance by Semenyo this past week. He'll have to keep it up with all of those goals that are going to be scored on a vulnerable Bournemouth back line. He'll have to keep up the offensive pressure if they're going to get results. I do see them getting scored on again this week, but I can see them getting the win. Wolves looked poor last week. Next up, we got Burnley taking on Sunderland. It's the
Second
first
place Sunderland. Second place Sunderland.
It's the first Premier League match at Turf Moor since Vincent Kompany was coaching the squad. It's the first promoted team derby. Burnley are coming off a tough loss to Tottenham. Defense did not look good at all. A couple of wonder goals by Richarlison, but really no one picked him up in the box. So if you give a player like that space, he's going to produce, and he certainly did. Kyle Walker got caught out on the 3rd goal. He should have just sticked with the on-running Brennan Johnson. He tried to intercept the ball and just got played through. Did not look good. I really am scared for this Burnley backline. Sunderland, however, much different start to this season than Burnley. Amazing 3-0 win against West Ham. I can't remember in recent history a promoted team having that big of a win to start off their campaign. I guess you just have to play West Ham for that to be possible. After dealing with a knock in preseason, Isidore came on to score his first Premier League goal and to seal the win at the Stadium of Light. You predicted that the Stadium of Light was going to be bouncing last week, and it certainly was. What an atmosphere. This, however, is their first away test of the season against a vulnerable Burnley side. I'm going to give Sunderland the win. 2 wins out of 2 to start their season. Again, can't remember a promoted team starting off like that. Starting with West Ham, Burnley is a good start to your season if you want to start strong, I guess, but that would be an amazing start to the season if they can pull it off.
Sunderland definitely want to take advantage of this early start to help. They say you need to get to 40 points. They could possibly have 6 at the end of week 2 and be on their way to safety. Brentford going to be one of those teams we predicted to compete there in the relegation zone to try and stick out of it. They have their home opener here against Aston Villa after losing 3-1 to Forest at the City Ground. Chris Wood on fire, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Villa, a 0-0 draw against Newcastle. They just looked like they didn't have a good preseason, that they weren't up to speed for the Premier League season. I think Unai Emery is going to get them right quicker rather than later. Ollie Watkins was not on the same page all the time, not making all of the right runs, not being able to link up play or keep the ball from spinning away from him. Villa went down to 10 men in the second half with a Konsa red card, trying to switch while tracking Anthony Gordon and fouled him for a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. Had to be a red card in my opinion. He will miss this one. I don't know that it will matter much because I do think Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, and that front line is going to be enough to get Villa all 3 points away to Brentford, who don't look ready yet. A lot of changes, obviously, with the transfers and sitting out.
That's going to take Brentford a little bit to rebound after the blows they took in this summer. Next up, we got Arsenal taking on Leeds United. Arsenal are coming off a fortunate 1-0 win over United at Old Trafford. Set Piece FC is not beating the Allegations anytime soon with another goal off a corner kick. I have to be honest, for me, it's still a foul on the corner kick if you do that to the goalie. But I do agree with Arsenal fans and United fans. Bayindir has to be stronger. You have to fight for your position as a goalie.
He's been scored on 3 times in the calendar year from corners, 2 Olympicos and that one. I mean, that practically was an Olympico if Calafiori doesn't touch it, which is just too many goals to concede direct on corners. But
yeah, it has to be better.
As a member of the goalkeeper union, it was a foul. I think there's too much of a push with the elbow. But anyway.
Yeah, Bayindir has to be stronger, has to fight for it. It's ironic if he probably tries to push Saliba back and falls over, then he would have got the foul. But because he did nothing, the ref didn't call anything. I don't really think that you should have to do that to get the foul. I think goalies should be a little bit more protected. And I don't like this dark arts tactics by Arsenal. They've been doing it for a couple years now, and I would really like them to get goals elsewhere, but it's working for them. If they're not going to call it, fair play to Arsenal for taking advantage of it. Gyökeres had a pedestrian start to his Premier League campaign. He's going to be anxious to get his first goal at the Emirates against a much easier opponent this week. A lot of people are criticizing him way too early, in my opinion. Gotta give him some time to get comfortable in his new role. He didn't look so great on the ball, but to his credit, Arsenal's midfield didn't give him much to work with. A number 9 has to get fed the ball to be able to produce. The Arsenal midfield just didn't give that to him, so I'm sure he'll be anxious to get his chance this weekend. Overall, Arsenal defended super well in that game, like they've done the last few seasons, and they're able to get a win in a tough place to play in Old Trafford. So fair play to them. Start off the season with a shutout and 3 points. You can't be overly critical on them, but their midfield's really going to have to pick it up as they start to play a little bit more competitive games. Leeds United are also coming off a 1-0 win, playing Everton in their home opener. They definitely were the better team for majority of the game. A little fortunate with the penalty, and a lot of people disagree with me. I think it was the right call. I don't think that Tarkowski can be leaning into the ball and trying to block it, especially a shot on target. If it strikes his arm, you're putting your arm in the way and you're taking that risk, and I think it has to be called.
Yeah, you convinced me of that one. I must say I started off a little bit lenient to where I didn't like that call. I think his arm in a natural position. But I agree with you. I think the leaning towards the ball, trying to play it kind of with your arm and then not hitting the sleeve or up is an intentional handball just because you're placing it next to your body. Shouldn't necessarily negate that, and you've convinced me that that was a penalty.
A lot of people like to just, and I get it, they look at the exact how the law is written. If the arm is next to your body in a natural position, then it shouldn't be a handball. But they're forgetting that if it's a shot on target and it strikes the arm, there's always context, and he is trying to block the ball and it doesn't hit his chest, it hits his arm, and it would have been a shot on target. I think you have to give that. It is a soft penalty. You have to feel a little bit bad for Everton, but yeah, I like the call. Leeds started the game super strongly. They did allow Everton to get going a little bit in the second half, but were able to keep the clean sheet. They tripled Everton's shot attempts, and they have to be super happy with the start of the season. I don't think they're going to be so happy this weekend. I think Arsenal wins in a big way this weekend. I could see 3-0 with Gyökeres getting his first goal and the narrative starting to change with him.
Yeah, I think for sure he gets on the score sheet. Mateta going to look to get on the score sheet for Crystal Palace as they take their point from Stamford Bridge and travel for their home opener against Nottingham Forest, who got all 3 points with Gibbs White playing and starting and Chris Wood with 2 great goals. We all said he way outperformed his XG last year, way outperformed his expectations. Will he be able to keep it up as he gets a little bit older? And the answer is yes. The guy was clinical, left foot header in the box, running onto balls. Absolutely fantastic. I do think Crystal Palace with Oliver Glasner, though, will keep him quiet. They have shown over the last handful of games, if you go all the way back to the end of last season, they have stifled Liverpool, Chelsea, City in that span. They will do the same, I think, to Nottingham Forest. I do think that one of Mateta or Eze makes something happen as well. So give me Crystal Palace to get all 3 points at home over Forest. There will also be a lot of bad blood. Tune into that one for Crystal Palace's new song, which we cannot say on here, a family show, but they will have it in the stands. They will be singing it for 90 minutes, especially for all of the stuff that Nottingham Forest did to get them knocked out of the Europa League and down to the Conference League. So that will be an atmosphere. Give me Palace and all 3 points.
Crystal Palace starting the season pretty strongly with a point against Chelsea. I do think a lot of people have been overly critical on Nottingham Forest, thinking that they're going to flop this season after a great campaign last year. I think they shut up a lot of their critics in that first game against Brentford. Nuno Espirito Santo is a great manager. I really do expect them to have a decent season, but this is an interesting game. Hard to play Crystal Palace at home.
Props to Gibbs White, I think, then, for that reason, because I think the big reason why people were putting Nottingham Forest down a little bit was because of the fact of the summer window with Gibbs White. Will he come back? Will he perform at the level that he can perform? And we saw a great performance from him against Brentford and driving that attack. So props to him for being a professional, sticking with the team, even though he almost had a move. Definitely shows the difference between him, Isak, and Wisa for sure. But Everton, Brighton up next. Who do you got in Everton's home opener in their new stadium that seems like it's been open for 3 years already and they haven't played a game in it?
Yeah, Everton's coming off a tough loss against Leeds. Tarkowski was very pissed in his post-match interview about the handball. Again, I thought it was the right call. Grealish came on in the 71st minute and had a pretty quiet game, but you can tell he's still quality. Really excited to see what he might do for Everton and potentially getting into that England World Cup squad in the summer. I really like that move so he can get minutes in order to play for England in the summer. It was good timing to try to get some more minutes after not playing so much for City the last couple of years. I really need to see Dwight McNeil in this game for Everton. He didn't get any minutes in their opener. I don't know if he's dealing with a little bit of a knock or lack of fitness, but I really need to see him in the game. I think he creates so much. Beto couldn't get any chances. Everton needs a little help with creativity in their midfield. Grealish will contribute with that if he gets the start, I think also, but we need to see a little bit more. Brighton are coming off a 1-1 draw against Fulham. They thought that they had the win, and Muniz said no thank you, and he had a goal with the last kick of the game. In the end, I think 1-1 was probably a fair result, but Brighton will feel hard done by that, as they did look slightly more impressive throughout the game. But I'm going Everton to get their first win in the new stadium and their first game in the new stadium.
Yeah, it would be tough to score against Everton in that one, so I can definitely see Everton all 3 points. Like you mentioned, Fulham got a point at the last minute against Brighton. They return home to London to take on Manchester United, who a lot of fans, Manchester United fans, feeling very positive after that game against Arsenal. Yes, they lost, but they made a good account for themselves, a higher XG, a lot of shots, good transition, good work rate, all of this kind of stuff that doesn't matter because you didn't get all 3 points, but they will in this one. And I think a big reason that United get all 3 points at Craven Cottage is because I liked how Yoro, Delict, even Shaw played for a majority of that game. I think they were really robust against Arsenal. There were a reason why Gyökeres might not have had the best game in his Arsenal debut. I also really like the way that Cunha, Mbumo, Bruno Fernandes, Mount were able to press and then play in the transition. We saw Brighton really exploit that against Fulham in the second half, led to their penalty, led to a lot of more chances in the second half. So I think United are going to get a couple of goals through Cunha. We'll see if Sesko starts, and I think that will be enough in this one. Emil Smith
Yeah.
Rowe didn't get the start for Fulham last week. I'm thinking he will get the start. I think that could help them in that transition game, keep possession, be a little bit more solid in there. But I like United overall, 3 points away from home.
Delict had the best performance from any of the center halves in the entire league last week.
Ooh.
He had Gyökeres in his pocket the whole game. What a performance. United showed a lot of promise. United fans have a lot to look forward to this season. Cunha looks absolutely amazing. Every time he was on the ball, he did something. He took a little bit to get into that game. I don't think he touched the ball for the first 15 minutes, but once he got going, he looked like his old Wolverhampton self, and he had a great game. Mbumo just throws it down the defense's throat the entire game, and I think something will stick eventually. He wasn't able to get a goal, but it's bound to happen. They were creating so much. Sesko didn't have a very good game. I thought he was comparable to Gyökeres, actually. He's getting less criticism because he didn't get the start, but he'll need to improve. I know he's super young, but I think he's going to have to grow rather quickly if United wants to have a better campaign than they did last season. But to end on Monday, we have Newcastle taking on Liverpool. It is the battle for Isak. It does not look like either club will be fielding the star striker anytime soon. Isak came out and basically called out Newcastle for holding him hostage. He's still under contract until 2028, making about 120,000 pounds a week. I don't really know how much of a hostage situation that is. It doesn't look good for player and club, like we said last week. It's just a bad situation. I don't know what's going to happen, but he certainly is not playing this weekend. Newcastle are coming off a draw against Aston Villa. They were not able to capitalize after Villa went down to 10 men. But going to Villa Park and securing a point, they'll have to be happy with that result on paper. Aaron Gordon started in that number 9 position. I really need to see him back out on the wing. He's just so much more effective out there in the number 7 role. The question is, though, who should play the number 9 position? Because they really don't have a striker right now. Reports are that Newcastle are interested in Strand Larson. I think that could be a good signing for them. We talked about Nico Jackson potentially signing. I think Chelsea would be happy to offload him, get some of their money back, and I think it could be a good fit for Newcastle, but they do have to make some kind of move. With Isak not playing, they have to know that he's not going to wear their colors again, even if they hold on to him. He's just not going to play. Liverpool are coming off a thrilling win, probably the best game last week to start the match week against Bournemouth. Ekitike and Gakpo had really solid positions that will have Arne Slot thinking if they really need Isak or not. Offense was amazing, but some defensive questions in that one. Semenyo literally dribbled from his own box all the way to Liverpool's box and just blasted it past Alisson. You can't see that if you want to challenge for the title again. But when you score 4 goals, it doesn't really matter if you have a couple defensive liabilities. You're going to win games when you're able to produce that much offensively. I got Liverpool in this one.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the fans sing in this one as Liverpool come to town. A team that has kind of had the Newcastle's number. We talk about how hard it is to play at St. James's Park. And Liverpool haven't had too much of a worry over the last couple of years, picking up a lot of good points there. We'll see if they can do it again in this week. And there you have it, our predictions from us here at Twin Football. Thank you very much for joining us. And remember, enjoy the football.